You think dragons are all the same? Big, scaly, angry, breathing fire, sitting on gold, waiting for a night to ruin their day? Think again. The word dragon doesn't describe one creature. It describes an entire family of monsters that mythology just never agreed on. Some fly, some swim, some don't even have legs. Some are gods, others are glorified lizards with a bad temper. And for some reason, humans decided to draw all of them breathing something deadly. Fire, ice, acid. Take your pick. You've seen them in every story ever told, from medieval tales to anime to your favorite video game. But what most people don't realize is that there are rules, actual categories, that divide these creatures. Today, you're getting the ultimate field guide to tell them apart. The goal? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what kind of dragon you're looking at, whether it's about to grant you wisdom or melt your face off. So let's start with the one everyone recognizes first, the classic Western dragon. You know this one, the king of every medieval nightmare. The Western dragon is the reason entire villages built their churches out of stone and kept buckets of water by the door. You're looking at a mountain-sized predator that can block out the sun with its wings. 4 legs, 2 enormous wings, a tail that could snap a tree, and scales that turn steel into decoration. When it lands, the ground shakes. When it breathes, the air turns into fire. No animal in fantasy history looks more like pure destruction. These dragons don't hunt for food, they hunt for dominance. Their flames can melt armor and turn cities into ash before sunrise. Knights ride out with polished armor and divine blessings, but a single wing beat from a Western dragon can knock an entire battalion off their horses. The fire isn't even the worst part. It's the intelligence. They can talk, scheme, manipulate, and lie. They collect gold not because they need it, but because it reminds them of how much humans value something they can melt in seconds. To them, your kingdom is a toy box, shiny, fragile, and disposable. In stories, they were always the embodiment of sin. Pride, greed, wrath, the complete medieval package. When a knight slayed one, it wasn't just a fight, it was a sermon. A symbol that order could still triumph over chaos, that humans could still stand up to something godlike. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. If dragons were real, no sword, no army, no prayer would ever be enough. When they fly, storms follow. When they sleep, volcanoes dream of being them. And if one ever decided to wake up angry, the only thing left behind would be a new desert named after whoever tried to stop it. But not every dragon is this majestic apocalypse with wings. Some forgot to grow arms or legs or even common sense, and yet they still found a way to cause chaos in the sky. If the Western dragon is a nuclear bomb with wings, the Wyvern is a guided missile. It's smaller, faster, and way meaner than it looks. 2 legs, 2 wings, no arms, just one long, muscular body designed for violence. It doesn't hoard gold or build lairs full of treasure. It doesn't think about philosophy or divine symbolism. It just hunts. You can hear it before you see it. The screech, the wind tearing behind it, the sound of something too big moving too fast. When a wyvern dives, it doesn't breathe fire in long, heroic bursts. It spits it, like venom. Short, explosive, and precise. Unlike the grand Western dragon that crushes castles for fun, the wyvern goes for the kill. It grabs livestock, knights, or anything that screams, and vanishes before you even realize the roof is gone. It doesn't need intelligence or magic because its body is already a weapon. Every scale is like armor. Every wing beat can shatter windows. People call it a lesser dragon, but nothing feels lesser when one rips through your village like a flying blade. In fantasy worlds, they're often used as mounts for mad kings and warlords, because taming one means riding chaos itself. And unlike true dragons, wyverns aren't patient. They don't sleep for centuries or negotiate with mortals. They attack, they feed, they vanish. Think of them as the apex predators of the dragon world, pure muscle and aggression, no politics involved. They show up in almost every fantasy story where something needs to die quickly and dramatically. Game of Thrones calls them dragons, but anatomically they're wyverns. Every flap of those giant bat-like wings burns the air, and when they land, they don't roar like gods. They hiss like demons that just remembered they used to be reptiles. So yes, the wyvern might lack the wisdom or grandeur of its 6-limbed cousins, but make no mistake, if the Western dragon destroys civilizations, the wyvern ends species. and that's before lunch. But some dragons didn't bother with wings at all. They decided to crawl, coil, and conquer the ground, turning the earth itself into their domain. If the wyvern rules the sky, the worm rules everything beneath it. You're looking at a creature that crawls instead of flies, but somehow feels even older, like it was here before wings were invented. No legs, no arms, no patience, just a colossal serpent made of muscle and rage. Wyrms don't live in mountains, they carve them open. They slide through rock and soil like it's water, and when they surface, the ground splits in half. These are the dragons of the earth, venomous, ancient, and far too patient for mortals to understand. Their bodies glow faintly underground like veins of molten metal, and every legend agrees on one thing. If a worm starts to move, something in nature is about to end. They don't collect gold, they swallow it. They don't breathe fire, they breathe death. Clouds of poison, dust, or heat that burns from the inside. In old European myths, they were guardians of buried treasure, but not because they liked it, because they were it. Their coils became walls, their scales became the stone around them. A knight fighting a worm wasn't slaying a monster, he was fighting the land itself. Then there's the drake, smaller, quicker, and closer to an overgrown reptile than a god. But don't let the size fool you. Drakes are territorial nightmares. They can't fly, but they don't need to. They'll chase you across forests, tear through armor, and still have energy left to roast what's left. They're the evolutionary middle ground between lizard and legend. All the hunger, none of the restraint. If a Western dragon is a king, a drake is the wild dog that guards the borders, snapping at anything that dares to breathe nearby. In some stories, drakes act like scouts for greater dragons, clearing paths or serving as living alarms. In others, they're independent predators, solitary and brutal, thriving in swamps, deserts, or ruins left behind by creatures stronger than them. They don't talk, they don't plan, and they don't hoard. They kill, they eat, they move on. Pure survival on 4 legs. Together, Wyrms and drakes show that dragons don't need wings to dominate a world. One controls the underground like a living earthquake. The other turns the surface into a battlefield. And somewhere between the two, mythology decided it wasn't enough. It glued feathers to a snake and called it evolution. Somewhere between a bird and a bad idea, the Amphiptere exists to confuse both biologists and heroes. Imagine a massive serpent, long, flexible, smooth, but covered in shimmering scales and crowned with a pair of enormous feathered wings. No legs, no arms, just wings sprouting from a snake's back like nature changed its mind halfway through. It doesn't crawl or walk, it glides, twists, and dives through the air in perfect silence. When you finally hear it, it's already above you, casting a shadow shaped like something that should not exist. The Amphiptere doesn't roar or bellow, it screams, a piercing cry that echoes like metal scraping against stone. In some tales, its feathers flash with light when it moves, dazzling prey before the strike. In others, they shimmer in patterns that hypnotize whoever dares look up. When it attacks, it coils midair, wrapping around its target with crushing force before throwing it off a cliff or skyward into a free fall. It's not about brute power, it's precision and speed. In medieval heraldry, the Amphiptere became a symbol of cunning and control, the kind of power that doesn't need claws when it can choke you with beauty. Some legends even place it near rivers or sacred groves, where it acts as a guardian, silent, watchful, half spirit and half predator. You never see it eat. You just find bones arranged too neatly to be an accident. If the Western dragon is a storm and the worm is an earthquake, the Amphiptere is lightning. It appears, it strikes, it's gone, and everyone argues afterward about what they actually saw. It's living proof that mythology didn't care about logic. It cared about wonder. But while the Amphiptere dances through the air like a feathered nightmare, far to the east, another kind of dragon learned to fly without wings at all. Not a beast of greed or flame, but a god of wind, rain, and power that doesn't need destruction to be feared. Forget everything you know about dragons that hoard gold or burn castles for fun. The dragons of the East never cared about treasure or fear. They don't crawl or stomp, they flow. Long, elegant, and endlessly coiling, Eastern dragons move like wind turned solid, vast ribbons of muscle and magic that never touch the ground. They have no wings, yet they command the skies. They ride storms, swim through clouds, and twist through rain like living rivers in the air. When they appear, the world changes. Thunder quiets. The wind pauses, like it's waiting for permission to move again. These aren't beasts of chaos. They're forces of balance. The Chinese Long, the Japanese Ryujin, the Korean Yang, each one rules an element of nature. Some summon rain to feed crops, others command the ocean's tides, others guard sacred mountains. Their scales shimmer in blue, green, and gold, reflecting the sky they command. Their whiskers move as if they sense the pulse of the world itself. In temples and scrolls, they aren't monsters. They're emperors of the unseen. But that doesn't make them gentle. When angered, they bring floods that erase cities. When disrespected, they vanish for generations, leaving entire kingdoms to wither without rain. In one legend, Ryujin pulls his jewels from the sea to control the tides, and when a mortal dares to steal one, storms tear the coastline apart for years. They don't kill for greed, they kill for balance. And that makes them terrifying in a quieter, more divine way. In Eastern stories, dragons aren't enemies to slay, they're powers to appease. Offer incense, carve statues, build shrines, and maybe, just maybe, they'll notice your devotion. These are creatures that don't roar. They whisper through thunder and command obedience through calm. They're the living connection between heaven and earth, wisdom shaped like a storm. But while these dragons protect the natural world, others are born only to ruin it. The next one doesn't rule the wind or the rain. It multiplies chaos itself every time you try to kill it. The Hydra isn't a dragon that flies or guards. It doesn't need gold or worship. It just exists to make you regret being alive near water. You find it where rivers split, where the air feels thick and wrong, and the silence means everything else already left. The Hydra doesn't move fast, but it doesn't have to, because when one head turns toward you, 5 more follow. Every myth agrees on the rule. Cut off one head, 2 grow back. And they don't grow politely. They rip through muscle and bone, spraying venom and blood that poisons the earth it lands on. Its breath isn't fire or smoke, it's rot, the kind that crawls under your skin. When you see steam rising from a swamp, it's not mist. It's the Hydra exhaling. Its body is a mass of serpentine necks that never stop writhing, a creature that looks like an argument between evolution and nightmare. Each head thinks, reacts, and kills on its own. When one is distracted, the others are watching. Arrows bounce off its scales, swords bend against its hide, and every wound it takes only teaches it how to hurt back harder. Hercules barely killed one, and even then, he needed divine help and a fire hot enough to burn the concept of regrowth itself. In some stories, the Hydra's blood is so toxic it kills gods. In others, its venom seeps into rivers, turning whole valleys into wastelands. And what's worse, the more you fight it, the stronger it becomes. It's not a predator, it's a lesson. You can't conquer chaos by cutting off its head. In the wild imagination of mythology, the Hydra became the symbol of everything humans fear but can't destroy. Greed, corruption, addiction, rage, things that multiply when you try to erase them. The only way to win is not to fight, to burn the wound itself. And while the Hydra slithered across swamps spreading poison and fear, another dragon was sleeping below the waves, older, larger, and hungrier than anything with lungs. If land dragons burn kingdoms, the sea dragon drowns worlds. Leviathan, Jormungandr, and every name whispered by sailors before the storm, they all belong to the same impossible truth. Beneath the ocean's surface lies something too large to fit inside a myth, something that moves the tide by breathing. You never see its whole body. You see scales the size of ships, eyes like moons beneath the waves, and ripples that stretch for miles before the head ever breaks the water. The sea dragon doesn't fly. It doesn't need to. The ocean itself rises to carry it. Leviathan is said to sleep in the deepest trench, its body coiled around the earth like a chain of living continents. When it stirs, the water trembles. When it rises, the sky forgets how to be blue. Sailors told stories of whirlpools that opened like mouths, of storms that formed around a single heartbeat below. To glimpse it was to witness a god before creation learned restraint. In Norse legend, Jormungandr grew so massive it circled the entire world and bit its own tail. It waits for the end of everything, when it will rise to poison the sky and drown the gods themselves. Every ocean myth since then borrows from that image. a serpent so vast it holds reality together just by existing. These dragons aren't evil, they're inevitability with fins. The ocean's final word. When they breach, waves rise like walls, ships vanish without splinters. You don't battle a sea dragon, you vanish inside its legend. The few who claim to have seen one always describe silence, not screams, not thunder, just the sound of water folding in on itself. Because that's the point. The Leviathan doesn't destroy out of anger, it resets. And if the sea dragon is the monster that erases, the next one is the god that creates. A dragon not of greed or chaos, but of wisdom and light. The one who taught humans how to build before the others learned to burn. High above the jungles of ancient Mesoamerica, a different kind of dragon ruled. One that didn't roar, didn't burn, and didn't need fear to prove its power. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, was worshipped not as a monster, but as a teacher. His body shimmered with scales of emerald and gold, every feather catching sunlight like a piece of heaven that forgot where it came from. When he moved, the air itself bent into spirals of color, and the sound of his wings was said to stir both wind and time. Unlike the Western dragons that hoarded gold, Quetzalcoatl hoarded knowledge. He brought agriculture, writing, and architecture to humankind, proof that not all serpents offered temptation, some offered civilization. His feathers weren't decoration, they were divinity. To the Aztecs and Toltecs, each plume symbolized life and renewal. The sky was his domain, the dawn his crown, and the breath of creation his voice. But even gods fall. When pride or sorrow consumed him, he cast himself into the flames, his body becoming the morning star, Venus, a reminder that even the brightest beings burn out when they forget balance. His myth isn't one of wrath, it's about consequence. The same wisdom that built the world can also destroy it if left unchecked. Quetzalcoatl represents the dream of every culture that ever tried to make peace with its monsters. A dragon that creates instead of consumes, that guides instead of devours. In him, the serpent finally became sacred. His form combined everything humans fear and admire: beauty, danger, and immortality wrapped in light. But even gods like him have opposites. For every feathered dragon of wisdom, there's one born of shadow, a celestial force that fell from the sky not to teach, but to rule. Not all dragons crawl through mountains or sleep beneath oceans. Some live above the clouds, where storms are born and prayers go to be ignored. Celestial dragons aren't creatures, they're events. When they appear, skies twist into spirals of gold and white, and lightning bends around them like worshippers bowing. They don't have dens. Their home is the horizon itself. You don't find them. They allow you to see them. In Chinese myth, these dragons are the true nobles of the heavens. Lung Wang, the dragon kings, rule over the elements, each with a palace under the sea and armies of fish that obey their will. They control the rhythm of the world: rain, wind, thunder, and time itself. To peasants, they were gods. To emperors, ancestors. The throne was said to rest on the dragon's authority, because ruling the land meant sharing power with the creatures that ruled the sky. Their scales are described as mirrors that reflect the sun so brightly it blinds the arrogant. Their eyes glow like twin suns hidden behind clouds, and when they move, they drag whole weather systems with them. They speak through thunder, answer through rainfall, and punish through drought. They don't rage for pleasure, they correct imbalance. If the Western dragon is divine punishment, the celestial dragon is divine maintenance. Temples were built to them not out of fear but out of dependence. Farmers offered incense for rain. Fishermen prayed for calm seas. Even kings bowed, because the dragon's blessing was the only approval that mattered. Without it, no crown shone long. In art, they're painted chasing a single flaming pearl, not treasure, but the essence of life itself. That image sums up what these dragons are: perfection in endless pursuit of balance. They are what happens when a storm decides to be merciful. But even in the highest heavens, corruption finds a way. Because for every divine dragon that guards creation, there's one that crawls out of death itself, a skeleton that still remembers fire. When a dragon dies, the world should rest easier, but some refuse to stay dead. The bone dragon, or Dracolich, is what happens when arrogance outlives flesh. Imagine the skeleton of a once great dragon rising from its own grave, wings torn but still moving, eyes replaced by pale fire that burns colder than ice. Its roar no longer shakes the sky, it silences it. Everything within miles goes still, as if the world itself is holding its breath. The Dracolich doesn't breathe flame. It exhales absence, a blast of lifeless air that drains color from everything it touches. Trees rot, metal rusts, flesh turns gray. It doesn't hunt for hunger, it hunts for memory. Every life it ends is another reminder that it used to be feared. In fantasy, these creatures are brought back by necromancers chasing power. But in older myths, some dragons resurrect themselves, not as ghosts, but as willpower too stubborn to decay. Legends say their bones hum with echoes of the fire that once filled them. You can hear it if you're brave enough to get close, a faint vibration, like the heartbeat of something that shouldn't exist. And if you see one move, it's already too late. Its presence bends the air, twists time, makes magic falter. You can't reason with a Dracolich. You can't even kill it the same way twice. It's what happens when immortality forgets why it was ever sacred. In some stories, their hoards remain untouched. Piles of gold guarded by a skeleton too proud to let go. Every jewel reflects the face of those who came before you, all burned, broken, or frozen in mid-scream. It's not guarding treasure anymore. It's guarding nostalgia. These undead dragons are the ghosts of ambition, a reminder that power never dies quietly. The Western dragon burns you alive, but the bone dragon makes you wish it had. And while these creatures cling to death, others evolve beyond it, adapting to every element, every storm, every world they touch. The next dragons don't serve gods or demons. They serve nature itself. If dragons were born from nature, the elemental ones are its final form. They're not animals. They're natural disasters with opinions. Fire dragons live inside volcanoes, sleeping in molten rock, exhaling smoke that turns daylight orange. When they wake, they erupt. Literally. Their scales glow like burning coal, and every movement leaves trails of embers drifting through the air. One breath can turn a forest into a memory. Entire mountain ranges have melted just because one got annoyed. Then there are the ice dragons, the opposite extreme. White, crystalline, and silent. They breathe cold so deep it doesn't just freeze water, it freezes sound. Villages vanish under frost without warning. Entire armies turn into statues mid-step. Their wings beat slow, heavy, almost graceful, like glaciers pretending to fly. If a fire dragon is rage, the ice dragon is resentment. It doesn't scream, it waits for you to stop breathing. The lightning dragon is chaos incarnate. Its body flickers between matter and energy, a blur of blue-white arcs that shred the air. It doesn't burn things, it erases them. Its speed-given scales. Some stories say they live inside storms, circling the eye of the hurricane, feeding on thunder. If you ever hear thunder without lightning, it's because the dragon decided to blink. But there's more. Poison dragons crawl through swamps, their breath-dissolving armor like acid rain. Crystal dragons glitter in the dark, pure and wise, their bodies refracting light like living gemstones. Shadow dragons drift between planes, feeding on fear and memory. Metallic dragons, gold, silver, bronze, were born later from the imagination of storytellers who wanted something grander. Dragons that could speak, reason, even protect. They breathe light instead of fire, and their scales shine with moral superiority. These modern breeds, from fantasy novels, RPGs, and games, are proof that dragons never stopped evolving. Humans just kept inventing new ways for them to kill us. Every color, every element, every mood. Some live in lava, some under ice, some in space. The idea survives because it's too perfect to die. Ultimate beauty wrapped in ultimate danger. And if you think that's the end, you're wrong. For every dragon born from earth or flame, there's always one that looks down from the stars. Ancient, radiant, divine. The kind that doesn't destroy worlds. It builds them. So dragons aren't just a species. They're a language. Every culture, every age, rewrote them to say something different about fear, power, and what it means to face something bigger than yourself.
The Western dragon was punishment. The Eastern dragon was harmony. The Wyvern was fury without thought, and the Hydra was chaos that refused to die. Even the Feathered Serpent tried to make peace with what we could never control, and failed just like we always do. They can burn, drown, freeze, poison, or enlighten you, but they all share one thing. They exist at the line between beauty and annihilation. That's why humanity never stopped drawing them.
You can't tame perfection, but you can imagine it. And when that imagination takes shape, it always looks like a dragon. They are gods, monsters, metaphors, and mirrors. Reminders that everything powerful carries the seed of its own destruction. They rule not just over fire and wind, but over story itself. And that's why, no matter how many centuries pass, or how many times we slay them, they come back. New names, new forms, same hunger. From the seas to the stars, from skeletons to storms, dragons remain the one creature that never needed to be real to dominate reality. Because in every world we build, ancient, modern, or fantasy, their true empire has always been the human mind.